Let's get down to business, guys. STEVEM is here. This is my intro. City pop, that's kind of a hot thing right now. I love it. I'm guessing you're here because you want to love it. So let's go into the 5 albums that I think might make you do that. But first, this video is sponsored by my Patreon. If you have a bit of spare money going around and you feel like supporting the content I make, please consider. I've just changed the Patreon rewards, so now all $1 backers get access to my videos 24 hours early. Thanks. In the last video, I gave you the down low and the history. Short form, wild boom of Japanese economy. Skyrocketed the country into this crazy ego. It was kind of like new wave, but for Japan. It took a lot of influences from American music and condensed it into its own Japanese consumerist formula of it. But you know what? A lot of it was pretty good. At least the stuff we remember, because I'm sure there was a ton of stuff that you can't even find anymore because it was just hot garbage. So let's recommend you some artists that I think you should be able to deep dive into the back of their catalogue and just find a ton of stuff to like. These are probably going to be my favourite albums from these artists. So let's go. If you have any others you want to recommend, you shove them in the comments and we shall see. I'll probably pin them or something. Alright, number 1. So we start with Taeko Onuki, she's just one of the best in the whole fucking genre. Originally she was a member of Sugar Babe. They were kind of an early city pop band, but they didn't do too well commercially at the time, with, several of the members going on to have their own prolific and successful careers, great numbers, and Ohnuki is just no exception to that. She's most well known on YouTube for her track 4am. Great track, by the way. It's from her 3rd album. However, the fan favourite album is Sunflower, which is her 2nd LP, but I don't want to talk about that album today. And also, I think it's worth mentioning, her favourite album is 1999's Lucy, which she recorded with a big old famous musician man that she used to work with by the name of Ryuichi Sakamoto. But yeah, he was a big deal back in the day. Maybe make a video about the guy at some point in the future, who knows. But yeah, they made this album. Obviously, it's something that's near and dear to her heart, so if you want to check out that, go for it. But today, I'm going to be talking about Kaie. I'll give credit where credit is due. Mr. Sen Huxtable introduced me to this one. Saw him talk about it on Twitter, and I was like, oh, what's that? And I listened to it, and I love it. It's great. It's got a little video, and the video is real cool. Be gone funky instrumentation, and it's been replaced with this as dour European pop with a little techno edge. Definitely more synthetic than what we're used to. Though I will say, Kaie starts with a more even balance between these elements. There's definitely a nice mixture. As soon as Ohnuki starts performing, there's this solo a cappella of a melody. It's a bit of a leitmotif, a melody that's repeated throughout, just like Star Wars, Star Wars theme, that's what it's like. And this whole album has that sort of quality to it, a cinematic quality. It separates her from her other albums in that it does feel like a video album. And the video itself has a style close to French New Wave, and that definitely complements the French pop influence that is going throughout it. There are tracks like Amour le Vent, which I didn't check on Google Translate, so probably saying it wrong. It's performed in French and it sounds proper to my ears, but I am but an uncultured, poor Englishman, so take that with a grain of salt. It's rare to find any live footage of Ohnuki performing, so this is as good as it's going to get. It's an intimate performance. It's got the instrumental full of light xylophones and accompanied with this echo, placing the vocals in this deserted Gothic cathedral kind of area. It's dark, but vast and alone. The strings, they dip in and out to really add a bit of grandness to the sorrow it's painting. It's a sparse sorrow it's projecting. This isn't your standard city pop kind of number. This ain't, late night thoughts and sadness with your poppy little track you listen to on the car when you go out in the neon streets. This is more of a French tragedy where everyone dies at the end and you're just really sad the whole time. And yeah, it just makes me want to cry a little bit, but in like a healthy way, not in like a sad way. But it's kind of sad. Like it's sad, but it's like healthy sad. Makes me feel things. That's what I'm trying to say. The track in question, Amour le Vent, also highlights the strength of the video album, with Taeko staring directly into the viewer's soul while pouring her heart out. And of course, you don't have to watch the video version, but I would implore you to at least check out this little bit of it. But I'll say this, the whole album isn't all doom and gloom. You got something like Round Dance that transitions into like a more jovial, playful, like lakeside little fun time. There's a couple bits of jazz in there, and it's reminds you that there are better times on the way. But at the same time, you have a track like The Undercurrent of Discontent, where I feel like I'm being warped between a cyberpunk bare-knuckle brawl. I mean, it's a refreshing change of pace and everything. You've got drum machines, you've got guitar samples, bleep bloops, and just a feeling of paranoia that's occasionally met with a bit of dancey optimism. So it's not the worst future in the world, but it's definitely one that you got to keep your guard up. There's also The Woman Who Fell in Love During the Summer, which, if I had to explain it, it's like we start in Twin Peaks with that very classic, over-the-top, cheese kind of music, full of camp, and then you slowly transition into Blade Runner, if that makes sense. It's surreal, but cathartic in a way. By the way, there are two versions of this album. One of them is an actual video version, and then the other is an audio version of the video version, which has different songs on it slightly. And I prefer, overall, the video version because it has, just to me, a better flow. And the way I'd like to summarize this whole project is it's like a merging of old and new techniques. You have some very classical pop stuff from France and that tragedy, but you also have a lot of newer 80s style stuff from the time, and it finds a good even balance between these two, with the Baroque and the techno. And there's only 37 minutes, so you haven't got that much to lose. Just give it a go if you like the techno pop, if you like the sad stuff, and if you like the French. Oh God, it's too beautiful. It's too beautiful. Did you ever hear of the tragedy of Takako Mamiya the Wise? I thought not. It's not a story that the YouTube would have told you. It's a citypop legend. Takako Mamiya has only one album to her name. Lucky for her, it's one of the best citypop albums of all time. It's like they say, if you come out the gate perfect, why even try again? Besides maybe releasing like 5 or 4 more amazing albums that I could listen to, but I digress, it's not my decision. So Mamiya plays with jazz throughout. She twists it around these pop music and winding hooks, and it all comes out real tasty. Love Trip has alluring vocals, playful keys, sax solos, it's got some jazzy drums, a soft choir to go with it, and just a strong bass line and an ostinato to finish it up, which is a lot of the biggest city pop, they like to use the ostinatos, a repeating melodic pattern after the song structure is finished to sum it up and then have a little fade out. This track is no different, and it's also very popular, so coincidence? I think not. It reminds me of just like a lonely night in a wondrous city. It's full of heartbreak and something echoed definitely in the lyrics. Mamiya, she describes herself as like a sideshow performer who gets to look on at all these couples who are in love and passionate and they want to be together, and she's got no one to love and no one would even bear her a single glance half the time, as she sort of stays there in her little box, chained there, alone. And she kind of looks at these crowd of people, and this is how I'm assuming it goes. She looks at the crowd or the audience and she says, hey, maybe cool now, maybe love's a cool thing for you right now, but you could just as easily end up as me at some point. I think we've all been there. You kind of feel that you are a bit of a sideshow performer and a bit of a freak. And I'm one to say, you should wear your freak flag high, but when it comes to Takako, I'm going to say to you, you're not a freak. You're not a freak. You're just a lovely individual, and I feel your pain. Yeah. So what I really do like about Love Trip is that it starts the album with this tone in mind, and then right at the end of the album, they bring it back. They have an English version of the same track. It's like a little ribbon. It just ties everything together in the whole album, which is usually the theme of love songs. They're kind of love songs, but with lots of different contexts, and some of them are not appropriate, and some of them are maybe a little bit more sweet and cheesed, and other ones are like this one, where it's, screw you, love's fleeting, motherfucker. And you can see a bit more of that in the second track, Chinese Restaurant. We have a story of young love. This track starts a little more weary, before erupting into this very, very cheesy display. It's like you've got your plate of Chinese and they've just sprayed cheese all over the top of it. And it's disgusting, but I fucking love it. Just love everything about this track. It's got strings, it's got sax, it's got an earworm of a hook that's She screams Chinese restaurant, and she screams it kind of poorly. It's got to be said that Takako, she was not the greatest pronouncer of English words, but it's in its own way very charming, to me at least. Mamiya, she sells it. She sells this performance with her liquid voice, and that's one of the great qualities of it, is that it just flows between all the instrumentation. It feels natural for it to be there. It's like the music wraps around the quality of her voice. It's never in the way, but it's always a delight to hear. And this is also followed through with the most popular song on the whole album. You see why? It's got all the album strengths, coming together in one. It's cool, it's jazzy, it's got that tinge of melancholy that you want to feel sometimes. It also soothes the soul. It's like a nice cold drink on a hot day. The thing with Mamiya's music is a lot of the time it kind of leaves me without words. I feel good and I don't know what to say. Let's just get down to the favourite tracks on here, because I think this is just one of the best albums in city pop. So some of my favourites, you got All or Nothing, just for that hook. Really makes me swoon. The lyrics focusing on a woman contemplating on having an affair with a married man. Is it going to be all or is it going to be nothing? There's obviously Love Trip and its reprisal version. Chinese Restaurant for that camp factor. Maybe One More Night. Oh wait, no. Morning Flight. At this rate, I'm going to just name all of them. Just from the instrumentation, the production, the vocals, it all comes together to be solid pop. It's just solid pop music, and everything I'd want from a city pop album in 42 minutes or less. Okay, moving on once again, Minako Yoshida and her album Monochrome is here for those thick bass lines. That's something else. The whole album is a sultry piece of funky, soulful city pop with these ironclad grooves. Yoshida, she can belt her way through the whole thing. She just smashes through that instrumentation, which, bear in mind, city pop usually has fine production, but this album is the cream of the crop when it comes to production. And that's how the bass just sticks out so fine. Without that, I think it just elevates it to a new level. Yoshida belts through the heavy instrumentation, rising all the way to the top. There's her use of backing vocals, and this is the opposite side of the spectrum from Mamiya. Yoshida, she demands your attention. She just smashes all the way through it, and God, can she hold a key. This is the closest I've seen city pop go towards something like Prince or P-Funk. I'm feeling that. I'm feeling that saucy energy, especially on something like Midnight Driver, which is a little bit gospel, to be fair. It's a speedier track on the album. It demands your attention in a slow burn kind of way. But Midnight Driver just brings it. It expands the groove, and it just really pushes for improv and dynamic instrumentation, and has a lot more time to breathe because of its length. And obviously, Yoshida's performance is just outstanding. I'm just going to put a little clip here. Ooh, damn, boy. Damn, boy. Damn. For the most part, Monochrome is a smoky, slow jam that's enticing you into the corner so it can play really dirty bass lines for you. We've got tracks like Rainy Day, which is just such a beautiful track. Just such a beautiful song. I cry every time. It's the type of song you put on when you just want to snuggle up on a really cold, miserable day. Minako's version surpasses even Yamashita's original just by how passionate her performance is, and it's hot. She even used to work as one of his writers on his earlier albums. Monochrome has the tightest production on any of these city pop albums. Love Trip is good, but Monochrome is just on another level. It's so clear, and it's so thick. So it makes some of its weirder production choices, like how it just hard cuts out of Black Moon, and that makes it really stand out. That's like the beauty of its production, is how you think it's going to go one way, and it definitely does not go that way. So for example, the build-up on Sunset, it just has layers and layers of drum patterns and guitars, and at some point you're like, oh, well, there's a sunset, so it's going to fade out. So it gets to this point, you're like, okay, that was cool, and then it fades out, and you're like, oh, yeah, that's the end of the song. But no, it just comes back even stronger and punches you right in the face with this gospel backing choir, clapping and triplo picked guitars, and just a whole live atmosphere. And yeah, it's a great time. So speaking of Tatsuro Yamashita, he was also a former member of Sugar Babe. I've called him the city pop king in the past, and I stand by that. Some others have said he's like the Brian Wilson of Japan, and I can see there's definitely like elements of their music which are similar, and I swear Yamashita kind of maybe worships Wilson a little bit sometimes. This album is called For You, and it is definitely a fan favourite within the city pop community, and I tend to just agree. I mean, I've been listening to these tracks all day, and man, they fill my heart with warmth. It's bright, light, tight, and sunny, and good for a fight. Tracks like Sparkle bring tasty summer jams. Well, For You as a whole is like a beach party condensed into 35 minutes. With Yamashita's rich voice as the cream on top, next to some brass, guitars, keys, layers of percussion, bass lines. The compositions can be full, like a hurricane of detail. But it's not really an issue because Yamashita's just such a great producer that this never becomes anywhere close to a problem. Honey, I love you. The city pop king will guide us through like the Pied Piper. Now let's get to the real debate of these tracks. Like, they're all great, but Morning Glory comes up. It was a song Yamashita wrote and produced for his wife back in 1980. It was performed in California. However, when it came back to him, he wasn't too hot on it. He felt like the Americans maybe might have Americanized the song a little bit too much on the production side. So he came through with a re-recording himself, and it's fuller, it's more bombastic, there's a tinge of Beach Boys in there. Do I like it more than Taeko Onuki's? It's a different vibe than hers. Hers is a bit more playful, playing hard to get, it's smooth, and definitely tilts more on the album-oriented rock styles that inspired it. In this moment right now when I'm in the booth and I'm melting and I'm doing a second take, I'd say Yamashita's version is the best. It's just a little more explosive, a little more immediate. The production is a little sharper. At least that's how I'm feeling right now. That's not to say this whole album is just summer jams. Occasionally it does move to different territories. You got Futari, which is slower, a bit more bluesier. It builds to a crescendo of emotional harmonies, and it feels like the sort of track you'd play at the end of the last call at a bar, where you're just thinking about stuff, just like, damn, it's okay. Things are right, but you think back to when they weren't. There are tracks like Love Talking, which just has some of the funkiest grooves and strongest hooks I've heard in a while. And like all these are so good. I love city pop, jeez, I just love this genre. And of course, the iconic final track on this album, Hey Reporter, which suddenly transports all the way to Berlin for a Berlin trilogy-style David Bowie track. It has that plastic soul kind of thing going on. These super tight grooves with these dagger-sharp guitars just stabbing at you. It's just very crunchy and distorted, opposed to like the crystal clear stuff we've heard in the past. What used to be Yamashita's golden voice now sounds a bit like a squawk. It sounds desperate and broken, a little creepy. But despite all that, that stuff kind of makes it stand out more. Like, it becomes a highlight because of just how excellent it's performed. Even though it's such a radical different tone, I still say it's a highlight and a great way to end the album, sort of thing, for when you turn the lights off at the end. Alright, now number five. There are so many albums I could choose. I don't even know who the final person could be. Should it be Yamashita's wife, Maria Takeuchi? I made a whole video about her. It could be Request, it could be love songs. But I've always felt her singles were like the thing that really shined with her. I don't know if I'd be comfortable just giving her the album spot because of that. What about Yellow Magic Orchestra? It's these grandpas, possibly the most influential Japanese band ever. Right, Japanese Beatles, you could say. Or how about we go for something like Fresh? Maybe some of the new crop, the neo city poppers. But I don't really know if any of them have gained that sort of clout yet, but I could be like, yeah, this guy, this girl, this person. And you've got Toshiki Keiromatsu. Well, if we're going to bring that in, what about, it's going to be After Five Clash, or is it going to be Seeing Lady? I don't know. I'm not the aficionado. What about joint projects like Pacific? Probably one of the first city pop albums I heard, and it was a good time. I've got to give it some credit there. Cassiopeia. Are they even city pop? I feel bad for not putting them on the jazz album if that's not the case. I've heard Mint Jams is a city pop album, and I really like that LP. It's a great time. It really shows how good the instrumentation on city pop albums are when you just focus on that as a one thing. You have Insatiable High. That's a good one. Gotta be Seaside Lovers, right? Right? That's what the album's called, right? You know what? I'm gonna leave this one to you guys because I couldn't actually pick anything. So I'm gonna say the top upvoted comment in about a week's time. Make your case to the audience. What is the best city pop album I haven't mentioned? And that will be the 5th one, and I'll pin it. So special thanks to all my Patreons, most notably Cole Davies and Fernando Diaz. Sorry, I can't say your middle name, dude. I'll ask you how I'm supposed to say that. Ooh, falling over. I'm falling over, guys. I'm falling over because of the massive amount of support you've given me and how it makes me feel. They make these videos more possible than they are, and they give me the hope to fall into this closet that I've recorded that is so hot that I'm just melting. I'm recording at night, guys, and it's so hot. Why is it so hot? Anyway, I love you all. Najube will be up next. It's going to be a lot of research, but I will dig into it as soon as possible. Thanks a lot.